Well, I don't think any of us were expecting all that. Hey guys, welcome back to Rewind Reviews. Today I'm going to be doing another trailer talk. Honestly, I wasn't really expecting to do this one. If you aren't aware, the San Diego Comic-Con's been happening over the weekend that this has been recorded. I wasn't really thinking there was going to be too much revealed. I mean, I was maybe going to have a look at maybe like the Shazam trailer, and if they were going to do like a Black Panther, Wakanda Forever trailer, but honestly I wasn't really expecting to really sort of have much revealed. Then all the stuff came out and I thought, I kind of want to talk about it, so this is what we're going to be doing today. So it's kind of a trailer talk, it's kind of not at the same time, so I'm still going to call it trailer talk. So I'm not going to be going too in depth in everything that's come out, because honestly I will be here all day if that's the case. So I just want to sort of talk about like the big things that have been revealed, that we've seen announcements for, or trailers that have been released. So just before I talk about DC and Marvel's big stuff, I know some people probably do want me to mention things like Dungeons and Dragons Honor Among Thieves, which is an upcoming movie based on the Dungeons and Dragons game. It looks fine. It does actually look a lot better than I was anticipating it being. I do like the casting for it. It certainly looks like it's going to be quite interesting and fun. I'm not too experienced when it comes to Dungeons and Dragons. I'm sort of familiar with, I've played like maybe about 1 or 2 games, but I haven't really done like full campaigns, so I don't know how accurate it is to the lore and mythos and all that. So honestly it does look really good. I do like the look of it. I think honestly it could be a really surprise hit, or it could be really bad, we don't know. Also, we got a very early look at the brand new John Wick movie, Chapter 4, which was rumoured to be called something like Hagakure or something like that. I don't know what's happening with the subtitle. As far as I'm aware, it's just going to be called Chapter 4. And honestly, it looks incredible so far. I mean, I have been a big fan of the franchise. I do think that, even though sometimes I think that the lore and the backstory and everything can get a little bit over the top at times, I do think that as an action series, I think it has been definitely one of the best ones that we've had over the last decade. And this one is really expanding the cast, because we've got people like Bill Skarsgård, Scott Adkins, Hiroyuki Sanada, even Kung Fu legend Donnie Yen. Honestly, it looks like it's going to be a really good movie. It is very focused on the action side, this little teaser trailer that we've got. But it genuinely does look like it's going to be a really good time, so I'm really looking forward to seeing what they have in store. And even though it is technically under DC banner, we did have a trailer released for the upcoming Sandman adaptation, which is going to be exclusive on Netflix, which is, I don't know if it's a book or comic that was created by Neil Gaiman, who's known for things like Good Omens and Coraline. It does look really interesting. I'm not too familiar with the character. I'm aware like John Constantine's supposed to be a part of this, but I think they've gender swapped him for Joanna Constantine, who's played by Jenna Coleman. It does look quite interesting. I am quite fascinated with these sort of darker fantasies, especially from Neil Gaiman, because I really love a lot of his stories. So it does look really good. It looks really interesting. It looks like it's going to be something that is going to sort of make you question things. I don't know. It's not something that I really know too much about. I know the imagery. I know it's been something that's been in the works for a very long time. I think like Joseph Gordon-Levitt and all sorts of being attached to it at some point. I believe there was an audiobook recently with James McAvoy as well. So it is something that I do want to check out. It is a book that I do want to look into, so maybe we'll before the show's out. So continuing with DC and the actual DC Extended Universe, DCEU, what we started off with was Dwayne Johnson presenting a little panel and a trailer for the new Black Adam movie, which is out in October this year. I'm not a huge fan of the character. I do know of him, I know a little bit about his backstory, and I'm fully aware that he is a villain, so I was quite curious why it was that they were making a movie about him, and the way that they were sort of saying that he's going to be like an anti-hero, and I didn't know what direction that sort of meant that they were going to be taking. But this little trailer that they have released for Comic-Con, it has kind of put my mind at ease a little bit more, because I like seeing that there is going to be actual conflict between him and the Justice Society, who the characters that I'm aware of who are in it include like Dr. Fate, who's by Pierce Brosnan, who's really good casting. I do really like the costume as well. Not too sure on like the like one of his eyes being covered up. I think it probably could have given him like little eye holes or something like that. But even like Hawkman, I think honestly the characters that I'm familiar with, they do actually look really good. I like that they are going to be like in direct conflict with Black Adam to some extent. and I'm really curious to see how this one does play out. It does look like it is going to be a lot more fun and a lot more interesting than I previously thought it was. Dwayne really does rile up the crowd. He does have that history, you know, with his wrestling career, so he really can work the crowd, and he does generate a lot of excitement for it, even though he's obsessed with the power change levels in the DC universe, even though it's never really been established that there is any. I'm kind of questioning what year the movie's supposed to take place in, because if the Justice Society is a thing, does that mean that it takes place before the Justice League were a thing? I know that Amanda Waller's supposed to be involved, so maybe it is supposed to take place afterwards. I'm not really sure. That's something that I do hope gets answered in the movie. Then we were treated to a first glimpse at Shazam: Fury of the Gods. I've got to be honest, Shazam was definitely one of my favourite movies in the DCEU. It definitely captured a lot of the spirit of the character and a lot of the energy and the childlike sort of presence that he has. I was really curious to see what it was that they were going to do going forwards, and I didn't want it to get delayed as much as it can, because like, especially with the kids and the age that they are definitely starting to grow up, and they are starting to become more like the age that like the older Shazam family are meant to be. So I'm glad that it actually is out and that going to be out this year, so it is something I am looking forward to. I don't know if I'm getting my facts wrong or if it's being pushed around or not. I thought the movie was coming out in 2023, but I believe it's now out in December. I don't really know when it's supposed to come out. If it's coming out in December, it's going up against things like Avatar, and I don't think it's going to do very well against that. It's really cool seeing Helen Mirren and Lucy Liu getting involved as the daughters of Atlas, and obviously I like that it is definitely embracing the more godlike side of Shazam, because it was very much just like a grounded movie in the first film with him going up against Mark Strong's character, whose name has just left me head. Dr. Sivana, that was it. It is strange why he doesn't seem to be appearing in this one, because they very clearly were setting up both him and Mr. Mind to be like the villains of the future, so I don't know where it is that they're going to sort of fit into things and how they tie into the story, because it just seems like a really big thing to set up and then just not do anything with. I believe there are plans for a third movie where Shazam and Black Adam are going to face off, but again I don't know where Sivana and Mr. Man are really going to sort of tie into that, so I'm really curious to see what it is that they actually do have in store for these characters. Slightly unsurprisingly, we didn't have any sort of updates on either The Flash or Aquaman: The Lost Kingdom. I don't really know what's going to be going on with those movies, whether they're going to be delayed again, whether there's going to be any sort of edits or changes here and there. It's something that I'm keeping an eye on. It is something that I am curious to see how those movies do turn out and the general reaction to them, considering everything that's been going on in the real world. Also, there wasn't any updates on the Wonder Woman 3 that was quite recently announced, nor Batgirl, which I believe has finished filming. It might still be filming now, I'm not quite sure. Blue Beetle as well, which is I believe supposed to be going on HBO Max, but it might have been changed for cinema release, which could be pretty cool. I do quite like the character. I did start reading like the New 52 comics a little while ago. They're not fantastic, but I did think that the Blue Beetle ones were definitely one of the better ones that I read. Similarly with Batgirl, she's definitely one of my favourite characters in the Bat family, so I'm curious to see how that movie plays out. And I'm really excited to see Brendan Fraser coming in as Firefly. But this is kind of classic DC at this point, where there's so many things that they've announced that are going to be coming out, and they just don't seem to be really sort of doing anything with. I believe there's a Static Shock movie in development, which again we haven't heard anything about, so I don't know what's happening there. There was a lot of fans who were convinced that Henry Cavill was going to be showing up to promote like a Superman sequel, and I don't know why people were convinced that was going to happen, because as far as I'm aware he's sort of contracted to sort of stay with The Witcher, and I think most of the stuff he's working on are over on Netflix, so I don't think that he will be coming back as Superman anytime soon, which is disappointing because I really do like him as the character, and I do want to see more of him in the role, just in better hands. And then we get over to what Marvel were getting up to over San Diego, and I don't think anyone was expecting just how much that they were going to be revealed. I'm going to start off with the animation side of things. Marvel Animation were kind of planning and talking about were a few projects that they do have coming out. The first one being the Spider-Man freshman year, which is supposed to take place within the first 6 months of him becoming Spider-Man, just before Civil War. Some of the concept art does look quite interesting. I like the sort of comic booky sort of style that they're going for, but when I actually saw some of the shots that they were doing, it's kind of confused me, because I don't actually know if it is going to be set within the MCU now. It seems as though it's going to be like a parallel world, another multiversal version of him. Norman Osborn's going to be in it, and the Scorpion and Tombstone. It looks like the Chameleon, might be wrong. I believe the Rhino as well. He's also got like 4 different suits as well as a homemade one, which looks completely different to anything we've seen in the Sony movies. So I don't actually know how this sort of ties into things and where it sort of fits in, because it just seems like such a strange direction for them to be going in. I do quite firmly believe that it is because Sony kind of have like exclusive rights on the costumes, the looks, the characters that they've gone for in these movies, because Marvel still don't own Spider-Man at this point. So that's why even like in Disneyland, they've got Spider-Man there on the Avengers campus. He doesn't actually look the same as he does in the movies. It's slightly tweaked just so it doesn't look like that version. So I think that's what's happening here. Surprisingly, it's going to be coming out in 2024. I'm amazed that they're actually announcing it this far ahead. And not only that, they've also announced that there's going to be a second series of it as well, which is very ballsy of them to announce this early on. So I'm hoping it's really good. It is something I am curious to see how it does turn out, because I'm a huge Spider-Man fan, so I do want to see what it is that they have coming up. And also full props to them for getting like a full-on comic accurate Doc Ock. He just looks great. He also has a very short trailer for Disney's upcoming short series called I Am Groot, which again I don't know whereabouts it sort of fits in. I think it's just going to be like a little sketch thing in the same vein as like the Team Thor and like the one shots, but it does look like it could be quite fun. He's definitely cute when he's Baby Groot, so that's all I've really got to say on that one. It just looks like it's going to be a really fun series. But quite shockingly, we also have the announcement of Marvel Zombies, which we knew about back when they announced Phase 4 was going to be happening, and Marvel Zombies was going to be sort of like a spin-off of like the What If episode, which I thought was actually handled quite well. I do think it is definitely one of the more fun episodes that What If did have, and it does look like they're going to be introducing a lot of the newer characters from Phase 4, like Kate Bishop and Shang-Chi, and I think Icarus is going to be in it as well. I believe Elizabeth Olsen's officially coming back for it as well. I don't know if the actors playing all the new characters coming back. They most likely are, because most of them have been involved in the TV shows before. So general stuff I'm not really too surprised about, but the thing that did surprise me was that they announced that the age rating for it is going to be a TVMA, which is mature audience, or the equivalent of an R rating over in the US. So I'm actually glad that they do seem to be starting to embrace like a slightly more sort of grown-up, mature side to the Marvel universe. I'm hoping that does mean better things for especially Blade, which we know is coming out, and I'm hoping that they aren't afraid to sort of shy away from that from now on, because like even like Deadpool 3, there was a lot of concern that they were going to sort of water it down and make it a PG-13. I think Deadpool 3 could work as a PG-13 movie, because I think it could add to a lot of the comedy. Like, he's getting really frustrated, he's got to like adhere to all the Disney rules and regulations, but again, it is great knowing that they are sort of allowing them to just do what they want to do. So that's pretty exciting. And then we also have the X-Men 97 series, which is going to be like an updated version of the animated series that everyone knows the theme for. And again, they've changed the looks a little bit of the characters. I believe Magneto is going to be leading the team, and they've also commissioned a second series of it. I do like the way that they have sort of stuck to the animation style as much as possible. I don't know how the movements are going to be, but like they've sort of updated the looks of the characters a little bit. I think like Storm's like got a different hairstyle as well as Rogue, but I'm really looking forward to it, because it was a fantastic series. So I'm genuinely hoping that they're able to keep up the quality that that show did have. Please bring back Spectacular Spider-Man. That's never going to happen, is it? And then we got the main panel of Marvel Studios actually announcing a lot of their live action stuff. Now, as I said, I wasn't expecting them to really sort of do too many announcements. I was expecting maybe like just a few updates here and there. There's a few casting rumours that was supposedly done, and I'm guessing if those rumours are true, then they're more than likely going to save them for the D23 event. And I was just happy with what they actually started off with, because they showed a trailer for She-Hulk Attorney at Law, which is like it's a lot more in depth than the trailer that we previously got. It definitely looks like it's been improved a lot more, especially when it comes to the visual effects. She definitely looks a lot better, and it does look like it does seem to be embracing a lot more of the comic book elements, including the fourth wall breaking, which really made my day when I saw that they were actually going with it. I'm liking all the little cameos that they're starting to actually show in this, and Phase 4 has kind of turned into Phase Wong, because he is an absolutely everything apart from Moonlight. And as I was watching it, I was just thinking, like, I'm just really happy that this show does seem to be looking like it's actually going to be really good. And then right at the end, I very nearly squealed, because Daredevil is officially going to be in this. And I don't mean just Charlie Cox showing up with like just the Matt Murdock stuff. I mean like proper Daredevil. The Daredevil situation is a very interesting one when it comes to the MCU, because I've kind of been under the belief that the Daredevil show and all the Netflix series, like Jessica Jones, Iron Fist, Luke Cage, Defense, Punisher, that they weren't part of the MCU, similar to like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., because there's just so many contradictions and they just didn't seem to line up with everything that was going on in the universe at that time. I'm under the belief that what they are going to be doing with Daredevil and Kingpin and whatever other characters they bring into the MCU, I think that what it's going to be is they're going to be variants of the ones from those shows. I think that the Netflix shows are in a branched timeline where like Age of Ultron was like the last big event that the Avengers faced, but Infinity War never happened. Because I think there will be little references and Easter eggs to things that have happened in the series, which I think they have admitted they are going to do, especially like the Kingpin's cufflinks. It won't necessarily be like a definitive like, yes they are canon or no they're not canon. But I think it's going to be sort of like a compromise of sorts where they're trying to make everyone happy. But it's just great to actually see him and Charlie Cox actually coming back in the role. And again, like he's going to be in the freshman year as well, which yeah, I don't know how that sort of fits in with the MCU, but he's going to be in it, so it does definitely seem like Daredevil's kind of being primed for being like a main focus going forwards. And then Marvel started to actually reveal some of the bigger things that were going to be happening, and as I said, this wasn't what I was expecting to actually see. What they've basically done is they've unveiled the entire lineup for Phase 5 of the MCU. So first up, what they announced was a little bit of trivia for Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, which is going to be the third movie in the Ant-Man franchise. Kang is going to be in it. We've been aware of that for a little while, but they've also officially confirmed that MODOK is going to be making an appearance, and Cassie Lang, who's Scott's daughter, she is going to be becoming Stature, and she's got a really snazzy purple suit. And that's slated for February 2023. I believe they did show a little bit of footage of both that and Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, where I think that the High Evolutionary is being unveiled, and I think Baby Rocket is even a thing as well, and I believe Cosmo is supposedly part of it as well, and they've announced who's going to be playing them. But most of the announcements that they've really done for Phase 5 were just more like confirmations of dates. So we have Secret Invasion in spring 2023, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 is going to be in May 2023, the second season of Loki as well as Echo are going to be out summer 23, and they'll be closely followed by The Marvels in July. And then finally we actually have like a proper release date for the upcoming Blade, which is going to be November of 2023. I'm really hoping that's really good. It is going to be a film as far as I'm aware, and Mahershala Ali, I think he is a fantastic choice for the role. I don't know how he's going to compare to Wesley Snipes. I hope people don't just compare him to Wesley Snipes, because I really do hope that he is able to put his own stamp on the role, so I'm really hoping that however it turns out is good. And then next up we have Ironheart, which is going to be in the fall of 2023. I'm not quite sure what date fall really sort of classes as, because us in the UK don't really say fall. More than likely going to be like October, November, I guess, so we'll see how that is. That's going to be a TV series on Disney+. And then across winter 2023 through to 24, we're going to have Agatha Coven of Chaos, and I'm sure the name's changed, because I'm sure it's like House of Harkness or House of Darkness or something like that. So I don't really understand the name change, or whether it's meant to be like a second season or not. They haven't said there's meant to be more than that, but I'm kind of curious what it is, but it's not really something that I'm really looking forward to. I liked Agatha Harkness in WandaVision. I liked WandaVision overall, so I'm curious to see that story getting continued and whether or not Scarlet Witch might sort of play a part in it or not. And then jumping ahead into 2024, springtime, we finally have confirmation that we are getting Daredevil Born Again, which I believe is going to be an 18-part series, which is pretty huge compared to all the other Marvel shows that we've had, which have never passed 9 episodes. And yes, they have confirmed that both Charlie Cox and Vincent D'Onofrio are going to be coming back as both Matt Murdock and Kingpin, so I'm really looking forward to seeing that. He is definitely one of my favourite characters, but I don't necessarily think it's going to be like a direct sequel to the Netflix shows. I'm curious if they're going to stick with the tone of those shows. They're more than likely not going to. I don't know how that's going to turn out. I really hope it is good and it is able to maintain the quality of the Netflix show. And then jumping ahead to May 2024, there's a lot to get through here. If you weren't aware of the leaked copyright names that sort of came out about a day or two before Comic-Con announcements, you weren't really too surprised by this, but the 4th Captain America movie is officially titled New World Order, and this is going to be the Sam Wilson Captain America. I don't know where it's going to sort of go, what sort of story it is that they're going to tell, whether it's going to be like an adaptation of the comic storyline or something else, whether Bucky's going to be involved or anything like that. I really don't know, but I am curious to see how that one turns out. And then rounding out Phase 5 in July 2024, we have the Thunderbolts. Thunderbolts are kind of like the equivalent of the Suicide Squad in a way. They're made up of like different sort of characters from across the universe, a bit like a Dark Avengers kind of thing, but not the Dark Avengers. Again, I'm kind of curious to see how this one sort of works, especially because like the Thunderbolts are named after General Ross, who appears in the Hulk movies in the MCU, played by William Hurt, who very sadly passed away in March of this year. So I am curious to see what it is that they're going to do with regards to kind of establishing and setting up the team. I'm imagining that what's her name, Valentina, is going to be a big part of that, because she's kind of been the one who's been like going around picking up people. I'd imagine characters like Yelena from Black Widow, US Agent from Falcon and Winter Soldier, the Abomination, possibly Ghosts. I don't know if they're going to do Red Hulk or not. Probably not going to be able to now. And Baron Zemo. Honestly, I do think it could be a really interesting direction for the MCU to really sort of go in. It does seem like it's going to be a really fun project, so I'm really curious to see how that one turns out and how it rounds out Phase 5. There's been a lot of complaints recently that Phase 4's kind of felt very directionless, and I feel like if Marvel had just stuck to announcing the Phase 5 movies, then I think that could still be the case, because there hasn't actually been any sort of culmination of anything that's happened over the past few years and the next 2 years as well. There's a lot of stories, characters, concepts, all these different things that have all been sort of established and built up, but there doesn't seem to be anything that they're sort of like heading towards. So I feel like that's why Marvel then decided to go on and announce what they were planning for Phase 6. So starting off, what we have for Phase 6 is we finally have actual confirmation of the Fantastic Four movie, which is going to be out in November. They haven't announced anything about it at all. We don't know if the director's been confirmed or not. We still don't know if they've cast anyone. There's been rumours that I think Jason Sudeikis has been cast as the Thing. I don't know how true that is or not. Plus there's rumours that we're going to be seeing Doctor Doom very soon. So I don't know how that's all going to sort of tie together, or what story that they're going to really sort of tell with the Fantastic Four. I hope that it isn't just another Doctor Doom story, because there are so many stories that they can tell with them. I'd like to see things like Annihilus, or maybe it'll tie into Kang in some way or something else. I really don't know, so I'm really hoping that this is the best one so far. It's the one that I'm most looking forward to. There's also 8 other projects that they've announced as well, but they haven't actually said the names, and they're going to be sprinkled throughout 2024, 2025. So I can only guess that they're most likely going to be the other titles that were released along with the copyright list. So I'm not going to say those here just in case you aren't aware of them, but they are available online if you do want to go and see them. I am expecting Deadpool 3 to be one of the potentially mutants, whether or not they're going to be introducing them in Phase 6 or whether they're saving that for the future. I'd also imagine that Armour Wars is more than likely going to be one of them as well, because that seems to have just sort of disappeared from the calendar altogether. I don't know when that is supposed to come out, but then they revealed how it is that they are going to be closing out Phase 6, and what they are starting off with in May 2025 is Avengers: The Kang Dynasty. I don't know if they're going to like fully adapt the Kang Dynasty stories, whether it's going to be a direct adaptation of any sort of particular story, or they're just going to sort of like cherry pick things here and there. But I'm curious to see how this one does turn out, how the Avengers sort of come together, and whether or not this is actually just the first part of the bigger story. Because what they also announced is that later on that exact same year, November 2025, is that we are officially getting Avengers Secret Wars. I know some people have been getting quite excited about them adapting the 80s comic series, but as far as we're aware, that's not what they're adapting. They're going to be adapting, I think it's like the 2015 version, which is like where I think it was 2 worlds that were colliding together, and that seems to be what they've been setting up from like No Way Home and Loki and Doctor Strange. That seems to be where this is all going. So it is nice that we have actually got confirmation of where things are building to. It's more just a case of, does everything work actually leading there? Because there's so many different stories that are being set up that not all of them are meshing together very well. So I'm really hoping that there is a proper culmination of everything. But then finishing off the evening, they did a little panel where they unveiled the first trailer for Black Panther Wakanda Forever, which is going to be a sequel to the 2018 movie. I'm really curious to see how this one turns out, because this is a movie that's going to deal with the unfortunate death of Chadwick Boseman. They are sticking with T'Challa being, I think he is going to pass on in some way. I don't know how they're going to handle that, and essentially the movie is going to be all about somebody else taking over the mantle, as well as the war with, I'm not sure if it's Atlantis it's called, but they are finally introducing Namor, who's like one of the original Marvel characters, like all the way back to like the days of like the 40s and 30s, because originally it was just the three main characters. They had the Human Torch, they had Captain America and Namor, and they were the main characters. So it is great actually getting to see him finally making his debut. But when it comes to the overall story for Black Panther, they have been quite secretive about it. They are sort of teasing who it is who's going to be taking over. There's been a few leaks online. I'm not going to reveal those here if you aren't aware of them. I don't know if people are going to be happy with the direction that they do choose to go with. I do have my own personal preferences, especially when it comes to the direction that they are going with the franchise, and I think I'd rather talk about that when the movie comes out and whether or not my mind's changed since then. But yeah, it's a movie that I am really curious to see how they handle this situation, because it's something that they've got to be really careful with, because it's a really tricky situation for them to be in. So I'm really hoping it's really good, and this will be the last movie of Phase 4, so I really hope that this does send Phase 4 off on a high note. The trailer does look really good. Visually it looks great. I like the way that they've used the music. It's just like a little tease of what we're getting, and I think it is definitely one of the better trailers that Marvel has done, especially when it comes to the Phase 4 movies. So that's all I've really got to talk about for today. I'll be here all day if I go over absolutely everything that's been revealed at Comic-Con, so thank you so much for watching. Let me know what you thought about the Comic-Con event. Did you go or not? What are you most looking forward to? What was the highlight of the event? Please like, please subscribe. If you have any suggestions for movies, TV shows, games that you'd like me to do a rewind review for, let me know down in the comments. I'm going to be very busy over the next few years if all these things come out, but I'm looking forward to talking about them, so, you know. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time on Rewind Reviews. See you guys.